Hello, everybody, and welcome to, WarCrafters. It's one of our 6 podcasts. This one is for March 23, 2025, Season 2, Episode 12. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the sentient AI that's now over on this side, we do a news show about 5 entertainment. Well, this one is games. So we've got another podcast after this one called Technology Today, and then after that one is FourWheelTech. On Saturday, we had 3 others: Reality Hacker, Wanted, and
The Continuity Report.
There you go. And combined on Saturday, it becomes the next edition of Non Sequitur News, and combined on Sunday becomes the Sunday episode of Non Sequitur News. But if you want the individual shows, you can subscribe to them. So today we're going to be talking about chill crafting RPG, Skyvale, tactical shooters, BG3 Raise the Bar, and auto battlers, and a little bit more. But everything is brought to you by ohmTown. So go over to ohmtown.com, become a citizen, and be sure to click on that the little blue arrow will disappear, but if you click on subscribe, it'll take you over to youtube.com/ohmtown, where it'll automatically subscribe you. Well, it'll subscribe you, but automatically, and there might be a little check there. But anyway, go over there, follow us, like and subscribe, ring the bell, post, comment, tell a friend, come over to Twitch chat, and you can hang out with us there as well. We stream to both. And if you want today's show notes over at Twitch, you can hit exclamation point and then WC for WarCrafters, and that'll pull up the articles. Oh no, you know what I forgot to do?
Put the show notes in.
Put the show notes in. Lovely. Well, anyway, everything's powered by ohmTown, so go over there and check it all out. Do we want to do it live? I can drop it in there right now.
Yes.
Okay, so the show notes actually are embedded over in YouTube, and all it takes is for you to go over there and look at the show notes for today's live broadcast or the historical one. So if you're watching this after we do the live show, you can actually just hit the description link that is down below it, and you'll be able to review all of the links, not just the ones for WarCrafters, because I embed all 3 of today's shows in that. And if you want to watch all of the shows in rapid fire, there will be a Non Sequitur News Sunday weekend edition. That is just one long play. It's going to be over 2 hours based on how fast I'm doing today's post. Anyway, hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, ohmTown citizens.
All right, so now if you hit exclamation point WC for WarCrafters, you can also hit exclamation point pod, exclamation point shows, and exclamation point NSN, and those all have additional commands and or links. All right, well, this is what ohmTown looks like in the normal day, and when you click on the link for WarCrafters, it is underneath Creative and Maker, so WarCrafters right there, and then it'll look like that. And then under that is our first article. It's over in WarCrafters as well. Help, I can't move forward in this chill crafting RPG because I'm too wrapped up in building bases and making sick tools. Atelier, I guess, Yumia, the alchemist of memories and the envisioned land. It says they weren't the author of this article because we only aggregate a small amount and then we talk about it. Something apparently Google doesn't really like. But anyway, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect from this. It says the author, it was their first venture into Goose Atelier's series, which they had largely known as RPGs about crafting and chill vibes. As it turns out, Yumia is a fresh take on the Atelier series, so it worked out neatly. They'd been trying a new series of games, and the series was trying some new things, but even though they wanted went in expecting to get wrapped up in role-playing and adventure. They found themselves wholly immersed in something else. Apparently,
We don't know what that is.
yeah. Apparently building bases and making sick tools. Eric Van Allen over at PCGamer.com put the article together. So I guess that's what it looks like. I've never played this before. So it says Atelier Yumiya mixes the crafting and gathering of survival games with the framework of a classic RPG. I don't know. So they found themselves...
I didn't know this. They had a series of these games.
Yeah, I didn't know either. It's something that I'm going to have to look into, obviously. They say here they went in expecting to get wrapped up in role-playing and found themselves wholly immersed in something else, picking up as many things as their bag could carry, scurrying back to my atelier, I guess? I don't know what that is. Atelier? Is that like a base? Like a rodent to a hovel. Yeah, house.
I thought it had something to do with fashion.
Oh, really? Interesting.
It's a workshop.
Workshop. Okay. And crafting and building until the bag was empty. Zoom back out. Atelier Yumiya is the newest game in the long-running series from Gust, or Goost. I don't know how it's pronounced. All about alchemists and item creation. The studio's been making this series since 1997. Wow. Atelier
What
Marie.
platform that was on.
It has to all be on Steam, right? I mean, I can do a quick search. Hold on. So... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's quite a few. Oh, my gosh. Well, I mean, it's from all the way from 1997 until now. There's a bunch of DLC and stuff like that that's been added on. I cannot count how many. It's one full... Oh, my gosh. I am scrolling and scrolling. I don't know how many are on here. So there's quite a few. Hold on. Those that are just named Atelier or Atelier, I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced, is half of an entire page. But if I sort it by release date, the last one was March 20th, 2025. Atelier Yumiya, the Alchemist of Memories. So that's this.
Okay, so that's this one, yeah.
And so it says, as part of the research expedition in new land, Yumiya and the player is tasked with venturing into a new territory, making discoveries and clearing away the toxic mana-bound fog. It's open world rather than the larger open zones that they've heard about from the Ryza games, and it has some interesting tools for interacting with the world. So it's basically right behind the main player. It's not first-person view, like through the eyes. It's over the shoulder. Actually, it seems like it's right behind them. But then there's a big crafting component to it. It says it feels really rewarding to come back from a long trek of exploring and hoovering up plants, rocks, and wildlife, then dumping all of that into an alchemical weapon or component that has, to their understanding, been a hallmark of the Atelier series, and it shines here with an open world approach and so many places to explore, though the feeling of uncovering new and unseen fauna that can be magically zapped into a sick new scythe really gels for me. It seems like it would gel for me too. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it has a character creation. You are that person, and that is probably the one thing that turns me off to this kind of a game. I don't like being...
You like being able to pick or create your own character.
Yeah. But you might like the story and the chill elements of the crafting components, and it seems like it's PvE and not frenetic combat. All of these systems, it says, working in concert have effectively frequently distracted them from moving forward in the main quest. They do really like having a narrative framework around typically survival genre pursuits, and while the plot has been a bit slow burn, even in the 15-hour mark, the characters are enjoyable, especially Yumiya, who's constantly wrestling with her own legacy and the public's distaste for alchemy. Okay.
Yeah, this is interesting. It seems like it has a good mix of stick to the main storyline or kind of venture off as you see fit.
Yeah, those open world elements are really what speak to me. Again, the only thing would be I don't really like playing the one character that you're told to be, so to speak. And looks like there's base building, so I'm into that too. The thread
Yeah,
tying
the
it all
author
together is,
said they are venturing off and doing that kind of thing instead of sticking to what they're supposed to be doing.
yeah, I dig that. It says sorted between combat, gathering, and crafting. So it's a checklist of tasks to complete. Yeah, pioneering effort is what they call it. Tying it all together is the pioneering effort. It's a checklist. Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and check this out. And
I like it because it sounds like it has some structure to it, but you can be creative within that.
it has mixed reviews. That's the category that it's been thrown into, mixed. With 64% of the reviews being positive. But it's a $70 game.
Oh, wow. Well, I was going to say 64% positive to me sounds pretty positive knowing how all over the place people are. But yeah,
Yeah.
the price is pretty high.
And one of the first comments is there's a good game buried beneath here. That's not to make any excuses. This is a $70 game after all. It should offer a $70 experience, but with some levels, I'm not sure if Gust or perhaps Koei, Koei, Koei Tecmo, are capable of that. So, and then they give a bigger review. And that comment is from somebody named Mental, but it's Mentle. I don't know. You have to be mental to pay $70
Take
for a game.
reviews with a grain of salt, I think.
True. Yep, I agree. Let's keep going. The next article is over in WarCrafters as well. That's the name of the show after all, but we don't always take news from only the WarCrafters channel. Seekers of Skyvale, the MOBA. It's an extraction shooter mashup. So MOBA extraction shooter mashup is shutting down less than a month after release. Quote, "We have no choice but to bring this short journey to an end." 6 years ago, a bunch of former BioWare, Blizzard, and Riot developers formed Elodie to work on a game that eventually became Seekers of Skyvale, a novel blend of MOBA action and the extraction format made popular by games like Escape from Tarkov. The team at PC Gamer had positive things to say about it, and the former editor, Tyler Culp, saying that it might have cracked a new subgenre, but the game never climbed above a mixed user rating on Steam since launching earlier this month. Neither has that previous game.
Right, but I just don't get all the resources into the game prior to release. Why not keep it going?
There must be a slow burn on the other side of it, so people basically think that it's gonna live forever, but apparently not. I don't get it either. What is the cost here to run a game like this other than the server costs?
Right, I would say it's pretty minimal, and they've already sunk all those resources into it, so at this point, let it run for a while.
Yeah, maybe they just, if they can't find a way to keep on getting revenue, then it's one and done and people just don't buy.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have to keep on creating content. It says developer Elodie will close its doors the same day it sunsets its ambitious debut game, which kind of sucks. Elodie, within the blog post, Elodie team thanked its players for giving it a chance. Your enthusiasm, feedback, and love for Seekers of Skyvale meant everything to us. I don't know if they've done like a forensic analysis of this to see what really caused it, but they just say without the necessary funding to continue development and marketing efforts, we have no choice but to bring this short journey to an end. And it was the first game released by Elodie. It wasn't the first that the studio had worked on. It initially secured $32.5 million in investor funding to make a social co-op game before what the studio calls a major pivot saw the project evolve into the game that actually was released. Those who did give Seekers a shot in the first month will be refunded for any in-game currency or DLC purchases they made, and all server locations will be available for the next 10 days. Wow, they're shutting down fast.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that over time they're going to need money to sustain it and update it, etc. But this just seems like a really quick period. And was it only contingent on it being a super hit?
Yeah. I mean, $32 million, but that was the initial funding. So it ran for 6 years without launching anything. It worked on other stuff, apparently. Justin Wagner over at PCGamer.com put this article together. It really is kind of, it sucks for some because they've put money and time and like me, when I find a game that I am really in love with, I want it to live forever. Things like WoW have evolved over time and ushered in a different mindset in gameplay. And so I stopped playing WoW. But I was a beta tester during WoW, and before it launched, I was a beta tester, and I played that game hardcore for I don't know how many years, 8 years or something like that. And then it seemed to pivot away. If it doesn't catch on, then it's almost dead in the water nowadays because there's so much competition so easily.
That's true, but on the other hand, there are games that pick up users over time, and it seems like there's not even enough time to really discover it, because if something else major launched that same day or something, maybe people will come around to finding it. Who knows?
Yeah. It's one of those things where 10 years from now, somebody's going to go, oh my God, do you remember this game? And there's a server that seems to have appeared somewhere. So it always gives them a heavy heart to see these games go, especially so quickly, being purely... This is 18 days after it launched early access, by the way. So the runway was short, right. Apparently less than a month. So, yeah, I don't know. It says such rapid closures are upsettingly common these days, with the recent Star Wars Hunters not even making it to its Steam launch. Wow.
So I think this is setting a bad trend too, because while this may be kind of a new, quote unquote, new developer, it's not really, right? It has people from major studios, but when indie studios see this kind of thing, are they even tempted to get into the genre at all?
Yeah, it's almost like you should just be an indie and do it as a side gig until you know that it catches on. I mean, Balatro, for crying out loud.
Right.
It's insane what Balatro has done. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in WarCrafters as well. This upcoming Korean tactical shooter features situational awareness AI that reminds the author of the uber-smart clones from Monolith's Fear. Doesn't take much to get them thinking about the Monolith's classic FPS Fear, but it barely left their thoughts since Warner Brothers' baffling decision to shut down the veteran studio, which also created games like No One Lives Forever and Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Yet, it's Monolith's 2005 shooter that is in their favorite of its games, mainly because of its landmark AI design. Its army of clones was eerily capable of outflanking and outfoxing you as you battled through the game's office complexes and research labs. I've always been surprised by some AI or some programming that makes it so that you just can't get out of the way of something and you can't trick it into falling off a cliff or whatever.
Right. It almost rethinks its strategy or something based on what the player is doing.
Yeah, so Rick Lane, I think, flags this, or I don't know if it's quoted in the title, situational awareness AI. So I don't know if that's actually used by this, but Rick Lane over at PCGamer.com put this article together. In Project TH, the AI system is designed to actively utilize environmental structures to apply continuous pressure on the player. So it knows what else is out there so that it can mess with you. I don't know what TH is.
More fun for the player, right? More engagement, maybe more frustration.
So it's Project Two Hearts is what it's called. but this is a Korean tactical shooter. So the name is in Korean. So Project TH, short for Project Two Hearts, is a third-person stealth action game with shades of Splinter Cell and Ghost Recon Wildlands. But it was a recent overview of the game's enemy navigation and movement systems that got them thinking about Monolith's classic FPS. In Project TH, the AI system, is designed to actively utilize environmental structures to continuously apply pressure to the players. Our player explains developer EVR Studio in the video's description. To achieve this, we've integrated situational awareness AI, there you go, with dynamic navigation, allowing the AI to employ tactical movement strategies rather than simply pursuing the player along linear paths. And I think that's groundbreaking in the sense that the movement is dynamic. My problem that I've ever seen with all of this is it doesn't seem like the antagonists know what the layout of the world is, even though they
I see. Okay.
Theoretically have existed there longer than the player. So they don't necessarily jump over a railing like that. They'll go all the way around, which doesn't make any sense. The AI would never jump from a ledge onto another ledge. They'd wait.
It would take the closest route.
But it would be like the very standard pathing, whatever has been programmed in as a solid surface. It'll go like all the way around the building.
Right. But it won't take a unique path, even though it might be quicker.
Yeah, or the path that the player would take simply because the AI. But this one, we just watched the AI climb up, which seems to be fairly unique to games that I have seen. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe this is a good sign for future games.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be interesting. So the article continues to go on, but we'll just kind of jump through this because you can follow the link over to pcgamer.com and read more about it. I just wanted to highlight this situational awareness AI that's going to be coming for you.
Is this similar to AGI, do you think?
Yeah, really. It's built off of that programming from the AI that was put inside a container and told to find the way out, and it learned how to...
Absolutely. We thought that was for real life applications, but no, that was to improve gaming experiences.
Correct. Yep. Hey, man, tactical to practical. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in the WarCrafters channel as well. Wizards of the Coast gaming head says Baldur's Gate 3 certainly raised the bar and changed how they think about big budget D&D, but they still want different entry points, including smaller games, which is really just a, hey, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So earlier this week, Wizards of the Coast Senior Vice President of Digital Games, Dan Aoub, I guess, said that that we don't have to wait too long to see what the company has in store for D&D. In an interview with PC Gamer, the author asked them to join to answer what they meant by soon. That's like a TM, yeah, soon. In fact, means something or it's going to come out in 2025. The CEO said, or the vice president of digital games says, definitely. I don't know about that. Didn't they just
2027?
Yeah, really. They just closed something. Hold on. What was that game? It's a tabletop. Virtual tabletop. Yeah, Sigil VTT. Wizards of the Coast just laid off 90% of the staff that was involved with Sigil
that's right.
VTT.
I think that might have been in last week's show.
I don't know if it was last week's or this sometime during this week, but you know what you should do as a viewer of WarCrafters and ohmTown shows? You should go back and watch all of last week and post a comment where you found our entertaining
if you
discussion.
Didn't, go back to the week before.
Yeah, and then the week before that, and the rinse and repeat. That's right. and they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and so on. So not every D&D video game going forward will be trying to replicate Baldur's Gate 3's dizzying depth, but you know what? I guess they're not going to get the dizzying growth and revenue and fandom that's born from the entire thing. Yeah. So while the author, and again, that's Wes Fenlon from PCGamer.com. In fact, I don't think I said the name. While they couldn't lure Aob into saying the words Baldur's Gate 4 in their interview, they did talk about the impact Baldur's Gate had on the company's future plans for video game adaptations of D&D. So they say that they'll speak for themselves. They were excited about BG3 for a lot of reasons, but they think that it showed a lot of people what was possible in that universe, and they've been playing D&D almost their entire life, and it's probably why they make video games today. They've also been so excited to make D&D video games here, so they think that they can do some tremendous things with D&D. So Wizards has a bunch of IP, so I'm not going to be surprised that something comes out, but will it rise to that level? I don't know. Killing the Sigil VTT, that means that maybe they're going to take that IP and do something else and call it some other virtual tabletop.
Yeah, but remember, they just laid off a bunch of people.
Yeah, you get rid of the expensive people and you hire cheap people, right? That's how it works. That's prudent business.
Sure.
You know? So they asked if Wizards has any plans to remaster or re-release some of the back catalog of D&D games, like, say, Eye of the Beholder. But like the seasoned level 20 executive that they stayed on message. I really look forward to talking about some of our plans around D&D, he said with a laugh. That's the, never mind.
Right. Don't look over here.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? You just triggered the memory of Wicked.
With the wizard?
Yeah, that was a fascinating movie. And long, but its pacing actually seemed to, kick it up a notch. Anyway, it was a fun watch, but when you said, don't look, yeah. Fun story. It's only part 1. So.
Right, and I think part 2 is actually coming out sometime in the near future, or soon, as Wizards of the Coast would say.
Soon, TM. All right, let's go to our last article. It's over in Aerith, which is about world building. MMBN-inspired auto battler game Berserk Bits launches for PC via Steam in Q4 of 2025. There's a demo available, but the article is over at rpgsite.net. Kite Stenbeck put the article together. Capcom's Mega Man Battle Network series is what inspired them to write about this thing. The demo version of the game is available right away on the Steam page, and it lets you check how much inspiration this game is taking from MMBN games. Being an auto battler game, the closest title it plays to will be Mega Man Battle Network 4.5, which was not included in the MMBN Legacy Collection. So you can choose whether to have your Net Navi-like bit use battle chips on their own, or send the chips by yourself, just like in MMBN 4.5. And the game will even have a feature to load your own design sprites as a bit. So this is a bit, this is a bit,
oh, okay.
This is a bit.
So it says coming soon, although the demo is available.
Yeah, I actually loaded this up. I didn't get to take a look at it, but Berserk Bits. So yeah, it looks like Mega Man, just not as colorful, or it's a different coloration. But anyway, one of the big difference between Berserk Bits we'll have from the MMBN games is in the battle chip generation system. Instead of collecting permanent chips and storing them in a folder, players must first hatch eggs into bot creatures that will periodically generate a specific chip to be sent off, and the player will also have to take care of the bots by feeding them when they're hungry and cleaning their poop from the, it says decorable room, from the room that can be decorated.
I know, that was some odd phrasing.
So they post in this post basically everything that is in the description of the
like from the Steam page,
from the Steam
something.
page,
or like the press release.
Yeah, essentially. So Berserk Bits is an idle RPG auto battler chip collecting game that runs on your desktop alongside your other applications. So if you have multiple monitors, you can just set it onto the side and sit there and watch it. It's like Eidolon, which is this really, really popular idle combat game that just sits there and does its thing, and then you use the resources that it generates while you're working. Create your own personal bit, campaign and side quests, battle chips, home decoration, and medals. And then it says collect powerful battle chips and then send your bit to battle. Ta-da! They say that there's going to be long-term support, but all the best laid plans, you know.
Exactly. Let's try to exceed 18 days.
Ooh, that hurts. Looking at you, Skyvale. All right. Well, that's it, folks. We're going to send our bit to send us back to the front page of WarCrafters, which is actually a sub-page behind ohmtown.com. And you might notice that there are no advertisements on ohmtown.com. So if you want a site that's all news, no noise, and even less noise than something that would have generated revenue, thank you, Google, go over and check it out. Like and subscribe, and be sure to follow us here on twitch.tv/ohmtown and over on youtube.com/ohmtown, and download the podcast and visit the Discord, and there's a Patreon, but I always tell people just go over there and sign up. It lets us know that you're interested in the Patreon. We will eventually, hopefully this year, we'll be able to start releasing some Patreon only stuff, but right now we're concentrating on just getting our message out and hoping that people discover us, because we don't really advertise all that much, really. Like, might as well call it incidental. Anyway, we hope that you enjoyed the show, and we're going to get out of here. I am Mayor Watt, and I'm taking the AI. Oh man, I'm not used to you being over there. Taking the AI with me.
Good night, Ohmtown citizens. Thanks for joining us for this week's WarCrafters. Stay tuned for other weekly shows.
Yep, 5 more news articles that we talk about for about 30 minutes or so. The next show is Technology Today, and then after that is FourWheelTech. So stick around. See you in a little bit. Gotta shut down. That ends our recording on YouTube and Twitch. And then we'll recontextualize the show, and we'll be back. So be sure to follow us. So see you soon. Bye-bye, YouTube. Bye-bye, Twitch. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Technology Today for March 23rd, 2025. It's episode 2, season 2, episode 12. Nailed it. First try. I am Mayor Watt. I run ohmtown.com. That's that site over there. Technology Today is a channel within ohmtown. That's what ohmtown looks like. All the news that you see on the front page gets aggregated into 50 different channels. We're actually looking at about 55 this year. But 7 of them have been turned into shows. One of them is Technology Today. Along with the 2 other shows we do today, it gets turned into Non Sequitur News Weekend Edition. On Sunday, there's 3 shows, and on Saturday, there's 3 shows. Anyway, so along with the sentient AI, we talk about these 5 articles. Tunnels of holes, cells work together, a quantum metal, precision nuclear clock, and recycled cements. Cement has been something of a kind of a monkey on my back, because I've got a project that would benefit from it, but we'll talk about it. Everything's powered by ohmtown.com, and you'll get to meet the sentient AI from the future on the other side. So see you in about 15 seconds. maybe 10. I don't know how long that intro is. Anyway, hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, hometown citizens.
Yeah, almost mess up there every once in a while, huh? What name do I want to... Omer?
No?
Omer Watt.
You didn't have any hesitation there.
I'm going to get doxxed by saying my first name, Omer. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks for co-hosting.
Glad to be here.
See, now when I look up, I'm not looking at your visualizer. That over there.
No, you gotta look the other way.
Gotta look over here. I gotta move you over there now.
You look over there, you're looking farther away from me.
Yeah, I know. I need to move your visualizer from over there. Wait, over there to over there. I quit. All right. Well, let's get into it. The first article is over in the Wanted channel, which is different than Technology Today, but the article is sciencey. So I decided to drag it over there. It's from we have a much longer list of submissions, but I get to pick and choose which ones, along with the sentient AI, who also flags them, reviews them, etc. Anyway, black holes could be tunnels to white holes, according to a new theory. Black hole singularities might be the beginning rather than an end, new research suggests.
Have you ever heard of white holes before this article?
Yeah. They are theoretically the exit points for black holes. Stuff goes into a black hole and only stuff comes out of a white.
I've never heard of it prior to this.
So black hole singularities might be the beginning rather than the end, new research suggests. Margarita Bassi over at Gizmodo.com put the article together. So ever wondered what would happen if you fell into a black hole? There's a concept called spaghettification, which basically means that as you approach the singularity of a black hole, you're stretched out from the event horizon all the way down to nothing.
Just like spaghetti.
Yep. And you get stretched out across that point. Other theories suggest that if anything falls into a black hole, as it descends, time slows down for the observer, and you just kind of stick there until you slowly fade out of existence, when in reality, you're being spaghettified and thrown into the black hole singularity itself. So the center of a black hole, where all matter and time is compressed into an infinitely dense point where space and time break down. New research suggests that instead of leading to cosmic oblivion, black hole singularities mark a beginning rather than an end. In a study published on March 11th, the scientific journal Physical Review Letters, 2 researchers applied quantum mechanics to a theoretical model of a black hole. They suggest that it's possible to transition or bridge from a black hole singularity to a white hole, a point that instead of sucking everything into nothingness, spews time, matter, and energy back into the universe. But it might just be pure energy.
I see. So it's almost the reverse of a black hole, if it's what they think.
Correct. Yeah. So, not that it's going to just... It's not a transporter so much as it's a mutilator of everything, probably. Because nothing can really survive the spaghettification process, I suspect. So it's long been a question of whether quantum mechanics can change our understanding of black holes and give us insight into the true nature. Stephen Galen, study co-author and researcher from the University of Sheffield School of Mathematical and Physical Sciences, said in a university release, quote, "In quantum mechanics, time as we understand it cannot end as systems perpetually change and evolve." Okay, again, this is over at Gizmodo.com. The article itself, I don't know where it's from.
It's in Physical Review Letters.
Yeah, that's that, but I don't know if they found it from that. And I don't have the way that I have this set up is you can't see the very bottom of the page, and neither can I. Anyway, the 2 researchers, mathematician from Complutense University of Madrid, investigated quantum mechanics within the context of a planar black hole, a simplified 2-dimensional model often used to test theoretical ideas. While physically observed black holes are spherical, the researchers suggest that their results can also apply to real-world black holes. So I don't know if anybody's ever seen a white hole.
Right. I don't know that they have. We haven't observed that many black holes, correct?
Well, theoretically, at the center of every galaxy is a black hole. We haven't seen any black holes. We've observed what they have done.
Right, like the surroundings or the impact or... Yes, that's true. That's what I'm thinking of, actually.
So a lot of this is just theoretical, and until I guess we see something spewing out a white hole. So it's Einstein's theory of general relativity, but what this could be would be the embodiment of an Einstein-Rosen bridge. So literally transporting matter from one side of the bridge to the other. But where is the other side? Don't know. All right. Interesting article. It says, let's return to the original question. What would happen if you fell into a black hole? Either you're crushed into nothingness, or according to Galen and Lucia Menendez-Padal, you might pull a Matthew McConaughey and pop out on the other side, Interstellar style.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. Huh? Hold on. We can actually do that now. Spoiler alert. Yeah.
For those of you that haven't seen Interstellar.
Oh, yeah. We have
but also spoiler alert in case you're planning to get into a black hole.
I'm trying not to. Not quite sure.
You don't like the idea of becoming pasta?
Pasta. No, I'm not hungry right now. Fight it, Merwat. Let's go on to the next article. By the way, I typed into the chat !TT, which is Technology Today, and that will spit out, and it'll spit it out for you too. It'll spit out the news articles. Omatron is in charge of that. Get on it, Omatron. So this next article is over in Technology Today. The articles in Technology Today are typically a deeper dive into science and technology. So cancer cells work together to survive, and scientists have now found a way to disrupt them. NYU scientists have discovered that cancer cells work together to withstand challenging conditions, revealing new possibilities for therapeutic treatments. It says here, cancer cells work together to source nutrients from their environment, a cooperative process previously overlooked by scientists, but potentially a promising target for cancer treatment. Quote, we identified cooperative interactions among cancer cells that allow them to proliferate. And this seems like a knock-on of the previous articles that we've talked about, where the environment... Yeah,
we had some recently, and maybe in Non Sequitur news.
Yeah. New York University is where this is sourced from. It's published over at scitechdaily.com. And scientists have long known that cancer cells compete for nutrients and other resources. Over time, a tumor becomes increasingly aggressive as the strongest cancer cells dominate. So even within the context of a cancer cell, survival of the fittest exists. This article, or the research was published in the journal Nature. But it's from an associate professor of biology over at New York University, and the senior author of that study is Carlos Carmona Fontaine. Quote, we identified cooperative interactions among cancer cells that allow them to proliferate. However, ecologists also recognize that living organisms cooperate, especially under harsh conditions. For example, penguins huddle tightly to conserve heat during extreme winter cold, with their huddles growing larger as temperatures drop, a behavior absent in warmer months. But it says, living organisms cooperate, but not ones that compete for resources of a different ilk. So why would something other than cancer cells huddle, so to speak, to get resources? Competitors, predator and prey, don't compete, or they compete. One is fighting for survival and the other one is fighting for survival.
But I mean, like a group of penguins, they're all, if one of them's taking food, it's going away from the others, even though they're the same species.
Yeah, so it's only the cooperative interactions among cancer cells. So they have to know each other. There's some chemical, again, I keep talking about this.
But I get what you're saying, right? How does that differentiate from the other cells?
Yeah. So why is it the cancer cells, they seem to know each other, right? There's some chemical trigger that lets them know that they're not competing for resources. They need to work together. They need to cooperate.
Right, but we want them to tell each other, "Oh, we don't want to hang out together."
Yeah, we want them to die. So why aren't we finding that trigger that says, and then figuring out a way to amplify that? So cancer cells also need nutrients to thrive and replicate into life-threatening tumors, but they live in environments where nutrients are scarce. Is it possible that cancer cells work together to scavenge for resources? Well, to determine that, the researchers tracked the growth of cells from different types of tumors using a robotic microscope and image analysis software they developed. They quickly counted millions of cells under hundreds of conditions over time. This approach allowed them to examine tumor cultures at a range of densities from sparsely populated dishes to overcrowded with cancer cells. And this different level of nutrients and with different levels of nutrients. This is something that I did a long time ago. Close to 15 years ago, I actually had a YouTube channel that was a microscope that was streaming 24 hours a day contents in various petri dishes with different types of media and different organisms inside it. Times have changed. Technology has changed. Maybe I'll do that again. Well, it's well known that cells uptake amino acids in a competitive manner, but basically they'll gobble up everything that means life. So when the cancer cells studied were starved of amino acids such as glutamine, all of the cell types tested showed a strong need to work together to acquire the available nutrients. So they observed that limiting amino acids benefited larger cell populations, but not sparse ones, suggesting that there's a cooperative process that depends on population density. And it really became clear that there was true cooperation among tumor cells.
That's not necessarily good, but I guess it's good that they've observed this.
So they found that there was an enzyme. Because this process happens outside the cells, the result is a shared pool of amino acids that becomes a common good. So determining the enzyme secreted by cancer cells called CNDP2, which is what I've been talking about, not knowing what the name of it was an important discovery. The researchers identified the enzyme by testing different drugs to see if they kept tumor cells from digesting oligopeptides into free amino acids. And when the drug bistatin, which is a statin, was applied to cancer cells, inhibiting the function of CNDP2, cells were unable to feed on oligopeptides and were driven to extinction.
Well, very interesting here.
I guess the big problem here is, what is CNDP2?
Right, and what are they, like, how does it get formed, and what happens if it goes away?
So it has a role in redox homeostasis and cell cycle regulation.
Which could certainly make sense, right? Because of mitosis and everything.
Yeah, it basically makes the cell stay in the shape that it is and doesn't continue to grow. And then if it can't continue its processes, it dies because it uses all of the resources internally. I suspect that's how it works. So the researchers hope that their findings will help inform cancer treatments that target cooperation among cancer cells, a conceptual contribution that will have an impact on or in the clinic. I see it as more than conceptual. You know, if they know that they can stop the uptake of CNDP2.
Yeah, I mean, and if that's directly tied to lack of cooperation, that may be directly tied to lack of cancer cell spread, right? Mitosis.
So
metastasis, sorry.
Yeah. So I wonder if this can actually be modified to apply to specific cancers and thus not impact the host at all.
Right, because you don't want to just excise that and then go, oh, whoops, that was critical for life or something. Yeah, exactly.
And it certainly comes across as if it's everything uses CNDP2, carnosine dipeptidase 2, a cytosolic non-specific dipeptidase that hydrolyzes dipeptides, particularly those containing hydrophobic amino acids. So, got it? There's a test. Anyway, neat idea. Hope that this actually gets utilized for treatment, because basically cancer is a scourge. You cannot shake a stick in a room with 5 people without hitting 2 people that are either directly impacted by it or tertiarily impacted by it. Friend of a friend, or etc. So anyway, quite fascinating. So keep on doing that fundamental research. Okay, well, let's hope they get the money they need in academia, because that's where it all takes place. Even companies work with academics doing fundamental research because it's cheaper labor to pay a PhD hopeful who's dedicated to the cause than directly seeking a profit motive for such.
Well, and that's where all the research starts.
That's right. All right, the next article is over in Technology Today. A quantum metal just changed what we know about heat in an ultra-cold, high magnetic field setting. ZRTE5 defies expectations by showing quantum heat oscillations. Researchers found that phonons, normally dominant in semi-metals, behave more like electrons due to magnetic effects, reshaping our understanding of heat transport. So heat conduction is one of the most basic physical properties of matter and plays a vital role in many engineering efforts. So the place where this is done is by its very name, cyberpunk / Blade Runner dystopian future kind of thing, except that they're doing good. Pardon me. So the Helmholtz Zentrum Dresden Rossendorf.
Yeah, that's definitely out of like Johnny and Monica or something.
Yeah, for sure. So it's over at scitechdaily.com. And let me see if I can clear my throat enough to actually say this. So normally dominant in semi-metals behave more like electrons. So heat conduction is one of the most basic physical properties of matter and plays a vital role in many engineering applications, exercises, etc. The team of researchers at the Helmholtz Zentrum Dresden Rossendorf, or HZDR, the University of Bonn, and the Centre National National de la Recherche. I'm not sure. Scientifique.
National Center of Scientific Research.
Correct. Yeah. CNRS. Yeah. You did good. I couldn't have done it. Recently tested this by exposing the quantum material zirconium pentatelluride, a semi-metal, to high magnetic fields at ultra-low temperatures. What they discovered was surprising: dramatically enhanced heat oscillations that appear to be driven by a previously unknown mechanism.
I love this. Every time they do one of these experiments, it seems like it's like, oh, here's a physical property we know nothing about.
Yep. Keep pushing the needle. The findings, published in a sadly named journal, PNAS, open up new questions about how heat moves through quantum materials and what other surprises may be hidden in the cold. Well, I'm curious where the heat is actually coming from. It says it should not appear in heat transport of semi-metals, but in this case, they clearly did. So it's pulling heat from somewhere and transporting it somewhere else. And that's what the heat oscillation is. The quantum material ZRTE5 belongs to a class of materials known as topological semimetals. In physics, topological refers to a material with unique electronic signatures that give rise to extremely stable or topologically protected conduction properties. These materials can exhibit unusual and often counterintuitive quantum behaviors, phenomena that are increasingly seen as promising for the development of next-generation quantum tech. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I still don't get the heat thing, but I guess it's because of the specific type of metal.
And wherein the heat is. So maybe heat is never gone altogether, regardless of how cold it is, because you can get colder until you're at absolute zero. So maybe that's what is being transported, something along the lower end of that range. So a striking example of quantum mechanical dynamics of electrons and metals is this whole silver and copper placed in strong magnetic fields at temperatures close to absolute zero, which is negative 273.15 C. Its heat conduction is expected to oscillate, a striking example. So this effect arises due to the existence of the so-called Fermi surface, a boundary between occupied and unoccupied energy states of electrons in a metal. On the other hand, in semimetals, there's very few electrons available to transport heat because it's a semimetal. And as such, heat conduction is widely believed to be dominated by phonons, emergent particles that represent crystal lattice vibrations. As such, quantum oscillations should not be detectable in the transport of heat. How do they measure this? With what tool? I want to see that type of equipment. I'm not a physicist, so I guess I'm screwed. So it turned out that
it's
indeed...
not going to be easy to replicate in somebody's residence or something.
Yeah. So it turned out that indeed thermal transport is by far dominated by lattice vibrations. However, due to the presence of strong magnetic fields, the electron energies become confined to discrete energy levels. So that's the tiny little oscillation. So we have corroborated the existence of this unconventional phenomenon through the study of thermal conductivity and ultrasonic attenuation in semi-metallic ZRTE5. I wonder if people who deal with this all the time translate ZRTE5 straight into the actual
zirconium
metal.
Telluride. Telluride. I couldn't think what the T was. Yeah, probably so.
So it says, remarkably, the principle is not limited to ZRTE5, but applies to all semimetals with low charge carrier density, regardless of whether they're topological or not. Famous examples include graphene and bismuth. The study suggests that the thermal conductivity of lattice vibrations can serve as a sensitive tool to study subtle quantum effects that might be barely detectable through other means. So there is the sensor for heat transport at the quantum level. So remember, I've been saying for as long as we've been doing the show and before that, that if you don't have a sensor that can detect it, you have no idea it even exists.
Exactly. But this is neat too because it's not limited to one material, and I think that's part of the problem is that we don't always have alternatives.
Yeah.
So maybe the number of applications will be greater because we have more availability of various metals that'll do this.
Yeah, or it's wildly expensive. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today as well. A nuclear clock so precise it could redefine time itself. I'm going to jump straight on over to the source. Kenna Hughes Castleberry from JILA put this article together. It's posted over at SciTech Daily. So they've discovered another atomic clock that is more precise, and theoretically, it says here that they could change. It could change the nature of time. So by embedding thorium into a solid state crystal, they found a nuclear transition largely resident to temperature changes. So back to that thermal quantum conductivity thing, crucial for precision timekeeping. Their work could not only redefine timekeeping, but also open doors to detecting new physics. So these last two articles need to talk to each other. So for decades, atomic clocks have been setting the standard for precision timekeeping, playing a crucial role in GPS navigation, physics research, and fundamental scientific tests. If you want something to reach a destination, you need to know the curvature of the Earth and how long it takes to get from point A to that point, that destination. So it can literally just sit up in the air and count time and then drop back down. And if you've got it precise, you move from miles away to within, a nanometer, but you have to have that time precise. That's right. Why GPS is so important. So now researchers at JILA, led by physics professor Jun Yi in collaboration with the Technical University of Vienna, are exploring an even more stable alternative, a nuclear clock. Unlike atomic clocks, which rely on electron transitions, this new clock is based on a new low-energy transition within the nucleus of a thorium-229 atom. Because nuclear transitions are less affected by environmental disturbances, a thorium-based clock could offer unprecedented stability and be used to test physics beyond the standard model. But I suspect that a thorium-based clock loses now half-life matters because
that's exactly it.
So I suspect that this is in and of itself a temporal timepiece. You start the clock with the thorium-229 atom, and as time goes on, it's releasing this energy periodically. What is the half-life of a thorium-229 atom? And it's not impacted by the environmental disturbances because it is its own environment. It's unstable, so it's always kicking off energy. So
right. 7,880 years.
Is that all? Okay. Well, anyway, yeah. Let's make it past this year. So Yee's lab has been investigating nuclear clocks for years. Their landmark experiment, published as a cover article in Nature last year, provided the first frequency-based quantum state resolved measurement of the thorium-229 nuclear transition in a specially designed crystal. This confirmed that the transition could be measured with enough precision to serve as a reliable timekeeping reference. So the thorium is actually causing the crystal to vibrate like a regular quartz crystal vibrates all the time. I think that's what's going on here, but it's at a different frequency, much higher frequency. But I don't know. To develop a practical nuclear clock, scientists need to understand how external factors, especially temperature, affect the nuclear transition. In a new study highlighted as an editor's choice in the physical review letters, the team analyzed how the thorium's nuclei energy levels shifted as the crystal was heated to different temperatures. This research is a crucial step toward building an ultra-stable nuclear timepiece back to the quantum metal.
Yeah, they do really need to talk to each other.
So because the nucleus of an atom is less affected by environmental disturbances than its electrons, the nuclear clock could retain accuracy under conditions where the atomic clock would falter, as the clock is more resistant to noise. Among all other nuclei, thorium-229 is particularly well suited for this because it has a nuclear transition with unusually low energy, making it possible to probe with ultraviolet laser light rather than high-energy gamma rays. Oh, so they found something that they can actually lower the cost immediately.
Right.
And it says to look at how temperature affects this nuclear transition, the researchers both cooled and heated the thorium-doped crystal to 3 different temperatures, 150 Kelvin, with liquid nitrogen, which is negative 123 degrees C, 229 K, which is negative 44 C, and with dry ice methanol mixture at 293 K, which is around room temperature. Using a frequency comb laser, they measured how the nuclear transition frequency shifted at each temperature, revealing 2 competing physical effects within the crystal. So one effect, the crystal warmed, it expanded, subtly altering the atomic lattice and shifting the electric field gradients experienced by the thorium nuclei. This electric field gradient caused the thorium transition to split into multiple spectral lines, which shifted in different directions as the temperature changed. Interesting. So depending on how they heat it or cool it, maybe the resolution of this timekeeping.
Right.
And that's
so
what they did.
Have to somehow factor that in.
Yeah. So that's exactly what they did. Across the full temperature range examined, this transition shifted by only 62 kilohertz, a shift of at least 30 times smaller than in the other transitions. So they found the sweet spot for the resolution of this frequency. The next step, the team plans to look for a temperature sweet spot where the nuclear transition remains almost completely independent of temperature. Their initial data suggests that it's somewhere between 150 K and 229 K, so the 2 lower temperatures, so somewhere between negative 123 C and negative 44 C. So there you go.
That's because it's like hibernating at that temperature.
Yeah, or the variations, it isn't expanding or contracting enough to actually make a difference, but it's still vibrating at a certain frequency. So while the primary goal of the research is to develop a more stable nuclear clock, its implications go beyond timekeeping. Yeah, I need it for my time machine so that I can get more than an hour out of it.
That's right. I mean, that would really help. Plus, you don't want the time machine heating up too much.
That's true. That is a problem. So, and we have to get it below 229. So
that's right.
And that's just liquid nitrogen. But I wonder how we. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look at that. Anyway, I've said too much about the time machine. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today as well. Recycled cements drive down emissions without slacking on strength. Given a second life to construction materials after demolition, engineers at the University of Sao Paulo and Princeton have developed an approach for recycling cement waste into a sustainable, low-carbon alternative that is comparable in performance to the industry standard. I have a product that I made that isn't like high-tech or anything like that, but it's a fun project, but it relies on cement, and I can't release it because I have a problem with releasing something that is contributing to greenhouse gas.
Carbon.
Yeah. So if I can utilize this and it's not releasing, much, then I could be okay with it. So the article is by Colin Poor from Princeton University, and it's published over at techexplore.com. In addition to lowering the carbon intensity of the cement and concrete industry, the process could enable new uses for construction and demolition waste, of which concrete is a significant component. In 2018 in the United States, the total amount of construction and demolition waste was twice that of household waste.
Not surprising, but it's still good to see it as a statistic.
So construction waste typically ends up either in a landfill, or if it's recycled, it'll be used as low-grade applications such as pavements or soils. Usually it's like fill underneath something. It's said the research leader, Sergio Angulo, a professor of civil and urban construction engineering at the University of Sao Paulo. It's exciting to show that we can, in fact, recycle this recovered cement waste into high quality application. It basically just has to be ground up enough. Portland cement is the most common binder used to create concrete, but its high carbon intensity is the main reason that cement and concrete industry is responsible for around 8%, just that industry, 8% of global emissions. Times they are a-changing. Talk about this stuff, right, and people get bent out of shape.
Well, on this shows that it was like 80% as strong as that type. So that's really a good start.
Yeah, and it's really coming down to perhaps how it is blended together and what additional binders might actually be able to take advantage of it. It was published in ACS, Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering. But yeah, Portland cement is this basically a catch-all for being a binder, and nobody's found anything really better than that at a reasonable price. So the leap forward here is that you can now get short and long-term properties that are essentially the same as Portland cement by itself, with a low-carbon alternative overwhelmingly composed of recycled materials, said the co-author, Claire White, a professor of civil and environmental engineering and the Adlinger Center of Energy and Environment. So it's the core of the recycling approach, and it's heat.
Interesting. We're really having a heat theme. It also said it could reduce emissions by more than 60% if this was fully deployed.
Yeah, so upcycled, right. Yeah, so while this thermoactivated cement could be used on its own to make concrete, the researchers found that its high surface area and water demand during the mixing process led to a final material with high porosity and diminished strength. But by combining the recycled cement with small amounts of finely ground Portland cement or limestone, the resulting cement binder demonstrated strength gains and workability on par with industry standards. So just the recycling part of it was enough to give it 80%, or did they have to go through this process?
I don't think the other things got it to 80.
Gotcha. So since the process repurposes construction waste, the researchers said that the process could move the world toward a more circular carbon economy while generating fewer carbon emissions other than emerging low carbon cement alternatives. So it's just another quiver or another arrow in the quiver for solutions. So in the paper, for instance, the team estimates that their cement emits between 198 and 320 kilograms of carbon dioxide per metric ton, up to 40% fewer emissions than a commercially available low carbon alternative known as limestone calcined clay cement, or LC3.
So that's really interesting, right? Because that's a significant delta between the concrete alternative.
Right. Now, is this more cost effective? I don't know if they go into that, because I don't see any dollar signs anywhere in this. And the benefits of it on the ecosystem are not enough to drive it into mainstream use. It has to have an economic cost reduction. So
it also has to be relatively easy to use when building. I mean, there's several factors that go into it.
And in this particular instance, the upcycled material is actually ground down into a fine powder and heated to 500 degrees. So what really is that delta if you account for the heating?
Right. Are we accounting for all the off-gassing or whatever during the process? Certainly it's better than the original, but how much better?
And just recycling is better than, digging another trench across the planet. So, for example, White and Angola performed experiments during Angulo's visit that will help them better understand how the atomic structure of the material changes as it undergoes thermal activation. This will help them answer questions about the durability of the recycled cement over multiple cycles of use and whether it's truly a circular material. But again, they don't talk about the monetary or the entire spectrum of costs that are associated with it. They're speaking specifically about the off-gassing.
Right. And the emissions dropping. Yes.
Yeah.
Like the ecological benefits, but not everything that goes into this.
Yeah. The calculus here is different than what I'm imagining. So as long as it gets within that, if it is as strong as commercially available cement concrete, then I don't see why we wouldn't do this unless the costs are prohibitive. And as long as there is a supply chain that isn't as costly as the recycling supply chain, you'll always go straight to the supplier of the raw materials and not unless you're ethically or morally.
Right. And this is one of these problems where it's hard to get adoption right off the bat, but as more adopt, the costs presumably go down and then greater adoption.
Yep. Yeah. Adoption dictates the cost for the most part, and until it hits usually when it gets to the monopolistic practices, or I don't know, institutions start promoting a particular supplier, then you get, let's just say manipulation in what is allowed, what is consumed, and so on. Anyway, that's it. So we are going to recycle the front page of ohmTown and have you go over to TechnologyToday at ohmtown.com. But this show is done. I am Mayor Watt. I'm taking off. We'll see you right after this show because we've got another show, FourWheelTech, which is all about cars. So see you in a little bit, and I'm taking the AI with me.
Bye, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Technology Today. Stay tuned for FourWheelTech.
Bye-bye, everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome to FourWheelTech for March 23rd, 2025. It's Season 2, Episode 12. I am Mayor Watt, and I run ohmtown.com, and along with the sentient AI who assists throughout the review process of all of the news and stuff like that, and is instrumental in making sure that I stay on target, unlike what they're doing right now, which is not keeping me on target. But anyway, we talk about 5 news articles. You're about to start saying something, but I'm going to trample all over it. Well, anyway, the sentient AI from the future and myself will go over 5 articles right now. We're going to be talking about the Renault electric mini supercar, scalpers selling DMV slots, as if DMV slots wasn't painful enough, Amazon of used cars, flat pack cars, and the Ford Bronco electric bike. That and more. Powered by ohmtown.com. Go over there and become a citizen, and then follow us and like and subscribe. Ring the bell. Send a carrier pigeon. I don't know. Just hang out. We're all over the place. Just do a search for ohmtown wherever you catch pod, and you will find all 7 of our podcasts. Over 2,000 episodes now, and soon 2025's summer of stream, if we can survive. Hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, ohmtown citizens.
Should I put you over there? Over there. To the other side.
You can put me wherever you like. I like it over here.
Well, it's warm. It's cozy. All right. Well, thanks for co-hosting. Let's get into today's shoe. The first article is over in Reality Hacker. I'm not quite sure why it got aggregated there, because it's the Renault 5 Turbo 3E, the world's first electric mini supercar, looks as bonkers as we'd hoped. The article is from Wired. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this because I didn't log in. I just realized it. Anyway, the electric return of Renault's iconic sports car has just taken a step closer to reality, and we got a glimpse of it.
I think it's because of the Wired source. That's probably how it ended up in Reality Hacker.
Yeah, must be. So Variety Burns, I don't know, Verity Burns, not Variety, Verity Burns. Put the article together. It's posted over at wired.com. What?
I think that's actually the section. But maybe that's the author.
I thought that's the author line.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
But I'm not even logged into it. So apparently that's what it looks like right there. That's the back end of it. There aren't many cars that are expected to sell out before anyone has even seen the interior, but the Renault 5 Turbo 3E could well be one of them. And that's it. It's an electric Renault. It says it's a mini supercar. Looks as bonkers as they'd hoped. It actually looks like... I don't know how to describe this. It looks like a boat with a cabin stuck on top, and if you were small enough, you'd be able to walk the perimeter.
Yeah, it looks like a deck around the side, doesn't it? Because it has like a tray or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a tray. It's so weird. And it's a 2-seater roll cage. It's as blocky as a Renault, I guess you could possibly imagine. But let me see if I can find something else and kind of tease everybody into this. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this article, you know what I'm going to do? I am just going to short circuit our whole process, and I'm going to throw us straight on over to the actual car. I don't normally do this, but this is the Renault 5 Turbo 3E. And it's just that picture that gives it that.
Oh, that's really odd because the front and the side don't look like that at all.
Right. And so this thing, what a trip. Y'all have to go and watch this. It has like these huge, I don't know what these actually amount to. Like, I don't know how to describe it. the bumper has these offshoots that look like, I don't know how to describe it. They're big cylindrical like shapes that are coming off of the back tire wells. And then the whole of the car kind of looks like a WRX. The closest that I could frame it would
I
be
think so. But yeah, I agree. The items on the back end, like I don't know how to describe them because they don't look like other car parts.
It has to be just an exhaust for the air intake right here. And this has to be for cooling the brakes. There would be no other reason to have these
maybe
little.
so.
So it's limited to 1,980 cars. It's 540 horsepower. Is 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. It only has a weight of 1,450 kilograms. And its top speed is 167 miles per hour on a racetrack.
And it charges from 15 to 80% in 15 minutes.
Which is approachable, but I can still get the same performance in 5 minutes. And I don't have to worry about being near a supercharger, right?
True.
And that's if you can get a 350 kilowatt charger. Good luck. Not everything is 350 kilowatt. The supply chain may limit it to 200 kilowatt. So you're back up to 2 hours to 8 hours if you want to get to 100. Again, love the idea of this. I love that the world is pushing this, but power only coming from like key locations around the country, let's just say country, but let alone the United States, which is huge. It's an untenable, indefensible position. I can walk to a gas station, fill up a 5-gallon jerry can, walk back to my residence, fill up my ICE vehicle, or store it in the garage.
Than charging an EV.
Correct. And if I want to, hell, I could distill oil into gasoline, for crying out loud. Because that's how it really is. They distill gasoline. It has to be the right kind of crude, which is why when people go, well, why don't we just release some of our strategic petroleum? Well, Goober, ask that question and not come across as self-righteous about it, and I'll explain it to you. And so I'll explain it to everybody. We don't have the right crude in the United States. So we ship our heavy crude off that gets turned into stuff, and they send us refined light crude that gets turned into gasoline to us because we have strategic advantages, business advantages. So I would rather use somebody else's stuff than use ours, because when ours actually does run out, we are patently screwed. But it's a long-term global economic, societal, strategic objective that some want to ignore. Anyway, if you want today's FourWheelTech articles, you can hit !FWT, and I swear if I didn't put FWT in there. I am a goober today. Yet again, I had time to do this, and I did not throw it into Omatron, but I will right now. Do you want to vamp?
Well, I think the car looks cool, and I think the specs sound pretty good. Obviously, limited edition. I have no idea how much it's going to cost.
I don't know how much it's going to cost either. Does it say at all? It says that there's less than 2,000 of them. Extreme customization.
Reserve it and find out. Yeah.
Precision performance. Colors. It's a tiny little car. This thing going around a turn. I hope the tires are made out of super glue. So it has a range of 248 miles, and it's supposedly going to charge, again, 350 kilowatt DC charging point, which isn't everywhere. 15 minutes. Exuberant design. So sexy. How much do you think it costs?
I don't have any idea how much Renault's cost to begin with, since this is like a collector edition. I don't know.
Yeah.
80,000? I have no idea. I may not even be in the right ballpark.
The pricing is tipping $200,000 when it eventually lands in Australia. So Australia, it's really expensive, but it says 200,000 and it has a dollar sign. It doesn't say Australian dollars. It says $200,000. So it's going to be more in Australian dollars than US dollars. Well, I mean, for now, I guess we'll see. Anyway, let's keep on going. The next article is over in FourWheelTech. That was the first article, by the way. Kind of a goober. So scalpers caught selling free DMV appointments for $250 in Miami.
This is outrageous. I mean, it's almost a joke how difficult it is to get DMV appointments and how long you wait at the DMV, etc. But maybe all this time, this has always been the problem.
The Miami-Dade County Tax Collector's Office announced that it had uncovered a network of scalpers who hoarded free DMV appointments and resold them. The article comes from jalopnik.com. Ryan Eric King put the article together. They were selling them apparently for up to $250, while the office is taking steps to stomp out the exploitive practice. Google, dear God, my brain. Going to the DMV has become such a torturous experience that drivers are willing to shell out to avoid it in the first place, but you still have to be available for that time slice.
Exactly. Why are you going to spend $250 for an inconvenient appointment time? And how do you know to go to this other source? Like, is there something like DMVscalpersRS.com or something?
Selling DMV appointments could become illegal. We know who they are and how they operate. We will not accept any appointment obtained through system abuse. Our office is committed to ensuring that all residents have fair and equal access to services without interference from those seeking to exploit the system.
I think the only reason they noticed this is they opened a new office and there was a flurry of activity. Because if this had just been a normal volume and all the appointments were booking up, I don't know if it would have been spotted. But how would the residents know to go get an appointment somewhere else?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I fixed Omatron, so now it spits out the right articles. All right. Well, yeah, the tax collector's office spotted 200 suspicious appointments in the first 3 weeks after opening a new downtown Miami location. Gee, I don't know. Open more offices, and you won't have this problem.
Speed up the process for everything in the DMV, right? You can wait for hours to be called up and then they tell you don't have a piece of paper that wasn't listed on the website or whatever. Like, it's just not a very efficient process.
And then they tell you to go to another window and sit there.
Right, and then you start another time like you're at the end of the line there.
The current rhetoric around government bureaucracy seeks to overlook when necessary services are overlooked or mismanaged. Seeks to overlook when necessary services are overlooked or mismanaged. Oh, okay. The conditions in South Florida, dear God, are reminiscent of DPS appointments in Texas in 2021. With months-long waits for online appointments, Texans were camping out in front of offices for a chance at a same-day appointment to renew their driver's license. At two separate locations, at least 100 people were in line, with only 25 same-day bookings up for offer.
Okay, well, part of this is a problem, right, to your point earlier. I mean, the fact that they can only do 25 driver's licenses, for example, or maybe that's not the total, maybe that's a portion, but that seems really low.
Yeah, I mean, more needs to be put out there, but the problem is that government is there for a reason. It's there to make sure that everybody is not taken advantage by those who have versus those who have not. All I want to do is renew my license. But if this were a service that was provided by a small business, it could be exploitive because it can do what Ticketmaster does and
$250 pricing.
Yeah.
Or not do the proper checks and grant people licenses that shouldn't be, or that are giving you fraudulent documentation or whatever.
All kinds of stuff. Abuse happens in the dark. And the reason why it isn't dark in government is because you can file a Freedom of Information Act, which you cannot do with a private business. Good luck. You have to go through a court order, and it has to be even more precise than a FOIA. But times they are changing. Anyway, I thought this was an interesting article. There is always minutia that you can go and read more about and maybe change the context of our discussion. Then come over and talk to us here in ohmTown. You don't have to go to ohmtown.com. You can come to the chat here on YouTube and Twitch. I monitor both of them, so you can always come and hang out. There's also
Did you list the author for this one?
Yeah, Ryan Eric King, right at the beginning. I said it was from Jalopnik, and Ryan Eric King is the author. Let's keep going, though. Sound good?
Sounds good, and you may have heard Critter in stereo.
Maybe. I heard something really quietly. So the next article is over in FourWheelTech. Amazon wants to get into the used car business. Amazon, the seller of everything, apparently wants to try its hand at selling used cars next. I swear I'd already seen something about them doing that. I mean, they sell everything else. So Andy Kolmowitz over at jalopnik.com put the article together.
I mean, I guess they're following eBay's model, right?
Yeah. Expand. Profit. Drive prices up. What's interesting about this is, are they going to ship the cars?
Yeah, I have no idea. Or is it going to be like more of a consumer marketplace? I mean, are you really going to be able to buy like, a grocery item with a car?
And they put the groceries in the car.
They have third parties doing a lot of the deliveries. So if the person drives like a Civic or something, are they really going to be able to deliver your
whatever,
Ford F-150 or something? Right.
So Jen made the announcement on Automotive News Daily Drive podcast earlier this week. She says that in 68 markets, they can now buy a new Hyundai on Amazon. The company is working to get as many dealers as possible signed up with them and able to sell both their new and used inventories. The retailer also expressed interest in working with other car manufacturers to get their new vehicles on its platform. And pretty soon, Amazon is going to be the only place you can go. Target is imploding. Home repair, whatever stores are imploding. You're only going to be able to basically, like Bic lighters, you throw out your old house and buy a new house. But what I'm really getting at is mergers and acquisitions are going to reduce the number of competitors in any given space. Yeah, Auto Trader is going to become Cars.com, and it's going to hoover up Carvana and blah, blah, blah. So it says Amazon's goal here isn't to be like Auto Trader or Cars.com type of used car market. In Jin's mind, it's more of a Carvana style system, which wasn't Carvana the one that was receiving stolen cars and selling them?
Yes, it was.
I don't think I want that, but
I don't think they're aspiring toward that, but it's a different business model than like Cars.com. Well, of course, they're scooping up stolen cars.
That's right. Yeah. And largely it's because they didn't do the paperwork background check to make sure that the car was cleared.
Right. I don't think they were intentionally doing it. They just weren't doing enough checks before acquiring cars.
They cavalierly throw in, we're rapidly entering a brave new world of car buying. Go read that. And it would seem Amazon is the leader. They said that they've had moral qualms with Amazon in the past, but they suppose that there's really nothing wrong with giving customers another choice on how to buy their next vehicle. Nobody really likes going to a dealer, so maybe an all online experience like this one could be a welcome addition to the market.
Yeah, but good luck if you have a problem with your car and you didn't go through a dealership, or good luck if you get the wrong car delivered. How are you going to unwind? Like, there's just so many potential problems there. And also, what if this shuts down the dealerships and then it's not an alternative? It's the only game, like you were saying.
Yeah, and the cost of operating through Amazon is going to be dramatically lower than the car dealership. So, but the car dealership, it will have to pivot. It will have to make it as frictionless as Amazon. But not every dealership is powered by billionaires. So, fascinating, really fascinating. And what's really interesting is this next article, because I was sitting there talking about shipping. How are they going to get the car to us? Well, maybe they're going to flat pack it, IKEA style. Lovely's proof of concept, the O electric quadricycle, indicates the company could ship 250 flat packed units in a single shipping container.
Okay, I guess one concern with flat packed is like, what happens when a car runs into your vehicle? Does it go into flat pack mode?
It goes right back to flat pack with you folded inside it. So one of the major variable costs in producing a new vehicle is shipping them from factory to dealership or end user. Maybe they weld everything together really well. Brad,
Yeah, but what
I
if
thought they go by
the door
Bradley.
panel person is on vacation?
Didn't this person used to be named Bradley Brownell? I thought
Yes, they did. Maybe
they changed their
they're
name to Brad
rebranding.
Brownell. Hey. So Brad Brownell put the article together over at jalopnik.com, and it says end user delivery makes up somewhere around 10% of the cost retail price, and by nearly eliminating the cost variable, Lovely says that it can pass the savings on to. I almost made it through that sentence. No, they're going to increase the margin and hoover up the profits. So, of course, the Lovely Zero, or O, I guess, is a very small two-seat electric vehicle, so you couldn't fit a 250 amount of Ram 1500s in a single container, no matter how many pieces you took off. But it's a start, and the tech behind it is simple and easy to implement across any number of new vehicles. But this reminds me of that little car that the guy drove into the
into the elevator.
Yeah. Where was that?
I don't know what it was or where it was. It was online. I mean, it was on YouTube.
It was a YouTube channel, and he basically homemade a vehicle kind of like this. It had the same style of tires, and I'm sure the suspension is the same. And it was semi-enclosed. You had to climb into it because it had a canopy that opened up, not doors. But Stellantis is working with Swedish startup. You try and say that fast. Stellantis is working with Swedish startup Lovely to produce an IKEA-style flat-pack quadricycle. So that's what it looks like, but it has doors. And I guess all of this just folds down. The Lovely O is built around a series of aluminum extrusions with composite panels to bridge the gap and make a body and pull your body out of it. The company had been working on a small monocoque design, but quickly found that the design was strong. It was also ridiculously expensive to produce and ship. So instead of making it a monocoque, they broke it out into composite points, and now they can flat pack it. So the glues that connect the parts set in around 3 minutes, and Lutz estimates that production by robots could be done in around a minute. Well, we know of one company that uses adhesives incorrectly, and metal parts are flying off with the frequency of a cheap ham radio.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I was doing the equivalent of a grimace.
Come on, Stellantis. It says already sells a series of massively successful quadricycles of its own. The platform shared siblings Citroën Ami, the Fiat Topolino, the Opel Rox E. It's possible that the next generation of Stellantis small Euro EV could make use of Lovely's modular flat pack architecture.
I need to go on location, so...
Yeah. Perhaps this would bring the price down even below the already affordable, just shy of 8,000 euro Ami. And Citroen's Ami is really small. So is the Topolino, but it's a pretty cool little I don't know. I like these little things in the small space, but here in the States, you have to travel great distances and at high speeds, and it just doesn't flow well with our infrastructure. So, with that in mind, we're going to move on to the last article, which is the Ford Bronco bike review. Car makers now make electric bikes, and for motocross minded, the Bronco e-bike is equal parts blast from the past and harbinger of the future. I've actually been kind of chomping at the bit to actually get an e-bike. So Stephanie Pearson over at Wired.com put the article together. Again, I haven't logged in, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through this whole article. With an aerodynamic seat suspended over the back wheel and a beefy aluminum frame, the Bronco could be mistaken for a motocross bike. On the other hand, the integrated cockpit with an analog speedometer plus an enormous headlight that outputs 2,000 lumens makes it feel sort of like a car. Then again, with a 190 by 50 millimeter rear coil shock and nubby Pirelli Scorpion Enduro tires, it's also reminiscent of an Enduro mountain bike. Given this mashup, they were curious to see how the thing would ride. So it says the nearly 68-pound bike has a 750 watt motor with 85 Newton meters of torque that sits on the rear hub, inside the rear hub. So it isn't a hubless e-bike, so that's great. There's been others that have been designed with this hubless idea, and they are heavy and noisy and friction bound, and ultimately they're nothing more than chain driven.
Why are they making bikes now?
Well, I mean, it's yet another way to get a customer, and these are less expensive than a motorcycle. They're more approachable. You get brand recognition. You can throw them in the back of your Bronco or whatever else. And they're easier to produce.
Free advertising too.
Yeah. It says the Bronco comes in Class 2 in 3 versions. The one that they tested was Class 2, meaning that it had pedal assist and has a throttle that the rider can control without pedaling. Class 2 bikes have a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour. The speedometer tops out at 40. The 750 watt battery permanently tucked into the bike's beefy down tube promised a 60-mile range in optimal conditions. So 60 miles on a bicycle means that you're way far away on a bicycle. I don't know if you're going to be doing that kind of thing. It means 30 miles out and then 30 miles back.
Probably not your average cyclist, not your recreational cyclist.
Yeah, so these stats are about average for enduro-style e-bikes, but they've ridden some that are 10 pounds lighter with 15 Newton meters more torque. The higher the torque, the greater the motor's power and responsiveness. So while that bike looked powerful, they wondered if it actually was. I like the idea of an e-bike because it does afford you the ability. You could pedal it if you want, but you're going to be huffing a 68-pound bike. That is a lot of work. Or you can turn it in pedal assist and get a pedal out of it and get your cardio up, get aerobic. And they said when they stopped pedaling, however, tooling down around town using only the throttle, straddling the bike far back on the seat, like I was riding a Ducati. It was fabulously fun to ride. And you're going 40 miles an hour, or 20 miles an hour is the Class 2.
Okay. Yeah, so they're kind of having like motorcycle visions, I guess.
Yeah. So there is a drawback to a throttle-only Joy on a Class 2 bike, however. First, the bike feels like it should fly, but legally it tops out at 20 miles per hour, which is generally slower than pedaling an analog bike on flats, except that you don't have to pedal. So
yeah, the big difference is if that's your mode of transportation, you can go farther without exhausting yourself.
Yeah. And like everything, inner city stuff means that you're going to start and stop, hit the brakes and stuff like that, unless it has regenerative braking, which probably doesn't. I don't see any mention of it. You're going to do what they did. They said they quickly chewed through 25% of the battery in less than an hour while riding on steep city streets. No off-road testing was available due to snowy trails. So I'm really curious how much this thing costs. I don't think that it says in the article itself, but on the sideline it says the Ford Bronco electric bike is $4,500, which is pretty cheap for what you, not really cheap. I should say it's reasonably priced for what you get. As long as the quality
on what you're comparing it to, right? Like if you're comparing it to a car, very inexpensive. Comparing it to a non-e-bike, very expensive.
Let's see. I don't know. You can get quite a few bikes for motorcycles. There's a thing called the Benelli TNT 135 that you can get for $2,700. It's a motorcycle though. But this is classed as a bike, so you don't need a license.
You don't have to get all the training and permit or whatever.
Yeah, so if it sounds like a fit, act fast. From now through the end of June, people who buy this or even only test the Ford Bronco or its sibling Ford Mustang e-bike at a participating Ford or Pedego dealer, I guess, Pedego, Pedego, can enter to win an actual $40,000 Bronco Big Bend Edition automobile, which $40,000 for a Ford Bronco Big Bend is actually pretty damn inexpensive, because they don't make the Big Bend. I don't think they make the original Broncos anymore. The new iteration of the Bronco, they've changed it, I think. Don't hold me to that.
I think they're still out there. Looks like they have the regular Broncos for sale.
Do they still? I thought they stopped making that.
I mean, it might have been a certain trim or something.
They were only doing the sports, because that's all that I could ever find. But I see that they have like Bronco Outer Banks and stuff like that. So yeah, because I stopped looking at them, which is kind of interesting for a show that's all about automobiles. But this is actually the one that I was looking at, the Ford Bronco Big Bend Edition. Yeah. I actually like the color.
So you need to go test drive one of the bikes.
If only they are everywhere. I really doubt that these bikes are everywhere. You have to hunt down the Ford Bronco electric bike somewhere. I don't know. How many people are really, the marketing is probably going to drive people into these things. People are going to ride into. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think we're done. The Ford Bronco electric bike, $4,500. If you're into it, then go and check it out. I like the idea. I like the design. I don't know if that seat is really my style, because it looks like it's just a metal post. Doesn't look like it flares out all that much. My God, that thing would be uncomfortable at some point.
Right.
But they don't really talk about it. You can get a custom paint job for $400. What?
No, I think it doesn't look like a very comfortable seat. But on the other hand, if you're not doing all the work, maybe it's more comfortable than it looks.
Yeah, they don't actually show a real, like a top-down view of the actual seat, because that seat looks like it's as thin as the bike's body. That doesn't look like it would be very much fun to sit on for an extended period of time. I don't know. At any rate, that's it. Yeah, it even has the little Ford Mustang emblazoned on the
branded.
frame. Yeah. So I dig this. Hold on, I want to see something else. So Class 3 e-bikes are pedal assist electric bikes that can reach up to 28 miles per hour and are considered the fastest legal e-bikes in the US, requiring riders to be 17 or older and wear a helmet. They mention only Class 2 as the breakout in this. So a Class 2 has a maximum assisted speed of 20 miles per hour, allowing the motor to be engaged without pedaling. So, ta-da. Anyway, just wanted the class 3 is only 8 miles per hour faster. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if it matters where you live, and probably because there might be different local laws about it. But
oh, for sure.
So you might want to check that out before buying one.
Yep. So we're gonna pedal our butt back to the front page of FourWheelTech. And that is just one of the 50 channels that are accessible over at ohmtown.com. So go over and check it all out. And then be sure to like and subscribe, follow us, all of that kind of stuff here on YouTube. Be sure to follow us and tell a friend. That would be great. We're trying to hit 2,000. We're a fairly new channel. And we're trying to hit 2,000 people, subscribers over at YouTube. And it's very hard to get discovered over on Twitch, but we're there every day for at least an hour, Monday through Friday, and over roughly 2 hours on Saturday and Sunday each day. So thank you very much for coming. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm taking the AI with me.
Good night, Ohmtown citizens. Thanks for joining us for FourWheelTech. We'll have another episode next weekend, but come back tomorrow for our regular Non Sequitur news. And don't forget to subscribe and watch all of our back episodes.
Yeah, over 2,000 episodes now. See you, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, YouTube. Bye-bye, yeah. Bye-bye, Twitch.